we've got a boom here. Generally in an interview setup, we are going to have what's called double coverage. We are going to have a boom microphone, which is fixed over the subject, and we're also going to have the lavalier on the subject. Normally in this kind of situation, if we've got a boom that we're trying to keep out of the shot, it also means that we're going to try and use a hidden lav as opposed to an exposed lav. But in some corporate situations, that might not be the case. It might be completely acceptable to have that happen. So we still got the exposed lav going on here since we already had it up. There are a couple things to watch out for when you are doing this. One, first and foremost, is safety. We've got a sandbag on this C-stand that's keeping it in place. We don't want to damage any equipment. We don't want to damage or frighten the talent. And then two, if you notice in the background here, I'm creating a shadow. That's something we don't want to do. So what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to leave the light where it is. I'm going to move the pole. What I'm going to try and do is find out where the shot is. But I'm also going to try and get this pole itself over the light. So we've got a boom in the shot now. So this isn't a bad thing. We're just getting set up. In a news situation or in an interview situation, generally what we do is something called double coverage. And double coverage means we've got a boom microphone capturing the subject, and we've also got a lav microphone still going on. And basically, if anything happens with the lav, we lose battery, whatever, we've still got the boom. Anything that happens with the boom, we've still got the lav. It's just good to be safe because sometimes you can't get your talent twice. So one of the things that I want to make sure of, though, is that A, I'm being safe, and B, I'm not creating any obstacles that are going to be seen in the shot, okay? So first of all, I've got a sandbag holding this C-stand firmly in place. We don't want this to fall. We don't want it to scare the talent. We don't want to damage the microphone, the transmitter, anything like that. The mount, the mount itself, this one is a fairly inexpensive mount, but that was still $68 for a piece of plastic, basically. I've got mounts that were $250. I've got mounts that were $250, and those are still inexpensive. So I'm just going to raise this a little bit because right now you can see that I'm creating a shadow. Now I'm going to imagine that the space of the shot is going to be about like this. So we're going to have about a foot of headroom over the subject. And I'm going to raise this so that that shadow back there clears that headroom. I'm going to put my foot down here to make sure that everything's going fine. Okay, and I've got my clearance. I'm going to ask my camera people, how's that look?
Looking great.
Looks good for me.
Okay. I'm going to make sure, okay, the microphone is still in the right position. Move it back just a little bit. Okay. Now, this is a hypercardioid microphone. There's a difference between a shotgun microphone and a hypercardioid microphone. This is a shotgun microphone. This is something I generally use outdoors. Reason being that it is designed to cancel out sound coming in from the sides. Okay? This right here is called the cancellation tube. The element of the microphone is actually down here. Now, with a hypercardioid microphone or with a cardioid microphone, you've got a much, much shorter microphone, and that element's pretty much right at the end. That cancellation tube creates a pickup pattern that instead of being kind of like a beach ball or a basketball like this one would have, this one is more of a teardrop. Some people think of it as like a laser beam, but it's not. Like I said earlier, you've got to get that thing in the right spot. Because if you're out here, you're not picking up the voice directly, you're picking up everything in its general direction. Now, that cancellation tube in an enclosed space, or a space with a lot of reverb to it, can sometimes pick up some weird frequencies. Like it sounds hollow. So you use that outside where you don't have a lot of reverb and sound coming in from the sides. That's just from the original speaker itself. Inside we use hypercardioid or cardioid, which accept more open air sound. That's a great way of making it. It's a great way of saying it. It's a much more open air sound, and we can pick up a much fuller voice. If you compare, two properly recorded tracks between a hypercardioid and a cardioid, or a cardioid, or between a hypercardioid and a shotgun, and a cardioid and a shotgun, you would say that this one sounds fuller, and that one sounds nice, but it's kind of flat. So this is what we use indoors, pretty much for everything, narrative, news, what have you. This is our boom mic. So if you could just tell us what could we say just for some soundbite.
Well, when I won my first Tony, it was because of my just effervescence, basically. The second one was because of hard work. The first one was just basically given to me. And that's my story.
Okay. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to listen to this, because there might be something going on called phase cancellation. Okay, tell me that story again.
Well, it started in northern New York, in the woods. That's where I first met the man that I would learn was my father. We didn't get along at first, but after a while I realized that we had a lot in common. He too had won multiple awards for nothing. After that, it was really just fishing trips, camping, the things that kids are supposed to do with their fathers. I had never known him as a child, but that's okay.
Okay. Now, one thing that I heard is that this boom is actually catching a lot of reverb in the room. So given the choice in editing, I would always go with the lav. The things that I could do to alleviate that a little bit more would be to put down a lot more sound absorption, or to move the microphone even closer. Another thing that we might be able to do is actually mic from underneath the shot, which would give us a slightly different angle and might prove to have a better rejection of the reverb.